As America's borders expanded to the west, stories of brave and daring pioneers spread across the country, but few characters caption the American imagination like Daniel Boone. He was a pioneer and frontiersman whose exploits made him one of the first folk heroes of the United States. His life story is a testament to the tenacity and determination that have shaped the American spirit. Remember to hit the like button because it helps us a lot. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel and press the notification bell to not miss the upcoming interesting videos. In the mid-1700s, British colonies were confined to the narrow strip between the Allegheny Mountains and the Atlantic Ocean. But as the Revolution ended, the western boundary extended to the Mississippi River, and pioneers began to venture into the uncharted wilderness. One such pioneer was the legendary Daniel Boone, who would become America's first folk hero. Boone was born on November 2, 1734 in Berks County, Pennsylvania, the sixth of 11 children in a Quaker family. As a child, he had little interest in books and instead spent most of his time hunting and fishing in the woods. His love for the wilderness grows as he becomes an expert marksman. Boone had wandered into the depths of the forest, building himself a sketchy shelter out of logs. He spent many days there with only his rifle and hunting pleasures. This free wild life helps him hone the skills he needs to become a good hunter. When Boone was 13, his family moved to North Carolina and settled on the Yadkin River. He quickly fell in love with this beautiful land. As a young man, he served in the British Army during the French and Indian Wars of 1754 to 1763, where he witnessed firsthand the cruelty and dangers of war. There, Boone worked as a charioteer for General Edward Braddock, aiming to drive the French out of the Ohio Nation, which ended Braddock's expedition of what would become known as the Battle of Monongahela. After his defeat, Boone returned home and married his beautiful neighbor Rebecca Bryan in 1756. They built a log cabin in the wilderness, far from the homes of other settlers. The couple will eventually have 10 children. Their love and devotion to each other has helped them overcome many of the challenges of life on the border. In 1759, a major conflict broke out between European colonists and Cherokee Indians during the French and Indian War. Boone, who had previously lived in harmony with the Cherokee, was forced to fight against them. Hunting trips deep into Cherokee territory outside the Blue Ridge Mountains kept him away from his wife for about 2 years. During this time, Boone faces many challenges, including extreme weather, dangerous wildlife, and hostile tribes. On May 1, 1769, Boone and 5 other men set out across the Allegheny Mountains. Their journey was perilous, and in 5 weeks they passed through a desolate forest with no clear path. But their determination brought them to a beautiful and rich land of Kentucky in June. A variety of game, including deer, bear, and bison herds, rewarded them for their hard work. They decided to stay for a while and quickly built a wooden shelter. 6 months after their arrival, Boone and a man named Stewart were captured by the militants. For 7 days, they were held in tight confinement, uncertain of their fate. But on the 7th night, after having eaten and drunk, the Indians fell asleep. In the stillness of the night, Boone saw an opportunity, then quietly woke Stewart. The two deftly cut the ropes and crept away. When they returned to their camp, they found it desolate, with no sign of friends. Daniel Boone was surprised when his brother, Squire Boone, arrived at their camp a few weeks later with a companion. The 4 men lived peacefully until tragedy struck. Stewart, a close friend of Boone, is suddenly ambushed and shot dead by a group of Indians. This horrifying event frightened Squire Boone's companion to the point that he abandoned his wild life and returned home. Boone and his brother stayed together in the wilderness for another 3 months. However, when their ammunition ran out, Squire had to return to North Carolina in May to replenish their supplies and horses, leaving Daniel alone. 500 miles away from home, Daniel is constantly in danger from wild animals and hostile Indians. He is forced to spend the night in tall trees or dark caves. Boone also did not dare to light a fire for fear of being discovered. During the lonely time of waiting for his brother's return, Daniel suffered many deprivations. He has no salt, no sugar, no flour, and his only food is small wild animals from the hunt. The only item on his body right now is an old rifle. Finally, his brother returns in July, bringing much-needed supplies. After 2 years of experience in this wilderness, Daniel Boone returns to his home on the Yadkin River to prepare to move. In September 1773, he sold his farm and was ready to settle in Kentucky with his family. When they reached the Kentucky River, Boone and his companions wasted no time building a fort on the left bank of the stream. They named it Boonesboro. The walls of the fortress are made up of the exteriors of the cabins, which are made of solid wood. The entire structure is surrounded by a 12-foot-high fence, and there are voids in all cabins. Daniel Boone, the leader of this settlement, is an interesting personality. He has a tall and slim build and tanned skin, a true child of the jungle, adding bulging muscles and a tough nature that enables him to endure this great hardship. People trust him, and his kind heart and tender empathy have earned him lasting friendships. He usually dresses like an Indian, though not always, in a casual outfit made of wildlife material. After building the fort, Boone returned home to North Carolina with his family. Shortly after he arrived, his daughter and 2 Kit friends were kidnapped by 5 Indians while they were floating in a boat on the river. The Indians hurried off with the girls. Boone's eldest daughter was very clever when she secretly broke small twigs and tore her skirts, slowly led them down to guide the others, searching. When Boone heard about the kidnapping, he and 7 other men from the fort quickly tracked down the Indians. The pursuit continued until the early morning of the second day, when they finally caught up with the Indians who were sitting around the breakfast fire. Without hesitation, the whites fired precision shots, killing 2 Indians and injuring others so badly that they fled, leaving the girls unharmed. It is worth noting that the abduction of white girls by Indians was a common practice during that time. It was part of their efforts to combat the encroachment of European settlers on their land. In early 1778, Daniel Boone and 29 other men were captured by a group of Indian warriors. During that time, the Indians in the area were fighting on the British side of the Revolution, and they captured Boone and the others to take to Detroit for ransom. Despite the offer of $500, the Indians refused to let Boone go. However, instead of being treated cruelly, the Indians admired Boone so much that they took him back to their home and adopted him into their tribe with strange rituals. They pulled out all of his hair except for a bun on top of his head and dressed him in a coat made of feathers and ribbons that buckled his scalp. Then they threw him into the river and scrubbed his body. In the end, they painted his face in an authentic Indian style, and he was welcomed as one of them. Despite being incarcerated, Boone found himself drawn to their culture. It is important to note that being accepted into a tribe was not uncommon in those days. Many Europeans in captivity were adopted by Native American tribes and lived among them for many years. Boone stayed with them for several months, during which time he made the best of his life. But when he heard that the Indians were planning to attack Boonesboro, he decided to escape. On a suitably dark night, Boone secretly set off. He traveled 160 miles with just 1 meal during the journey. He could not hunt for food or light a fire for fear of being discovered by his enemies. Boone reached the fortress safely, where he made a great impact in defeating the attackers. This is just one of many narrow escapes of the brave woodsman. Once, while smoking in a barn, 4 Indians suddenly appeared at the door with guns. Boone used his quick-thinking skills. He threw dried tobacco leaves into the eyes and noses of the Indians. Then, while they were coughing and sneezing and rubbing their eyes, he jumped down, successfully escaping. Despite his daring adventures, Boone remained the leader of the settlement of Boonesboro for many years. He never lost his love for the wilderness and pioneer life in Kentucky. Daniel Boone died on September 26, 1820, at the home of his son Nathan Boone on Femme Osage Creek, Missouri. He was later buried at Frankfort Cemetery in Frankfort, Kentucky. Please like and share if you find the video content interesting and useful. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and comment below so as not to miss the upcoming interesting videos. Thanks for watching.